The 32 Paths, Kabbalah, and the Key to Understand the Bible. The 32 Paths. In Kabbalah, everything is numbers and mathematics. The number is holy and infinite. In the universe, everything is measurement and weight. For the Gnostics, God is a geometrist. Mathematics is sacred. No one was admitted into the school of Pythagoras if they were not knowledgeable about mathematics, music, etc. Numbers are sacred. All of the splendors of the world and the extraordinary interplay of the Sephiroth on the 32 paths of wisdom within God and within the human being are described in a marvelous way in the Book of Formation, Sefer Yetzirah, a very ancient sacred Hebraic book of the rabbis. All the science of the Sephiroth is hidden within the mystery of the sexes. The secret key of the Sefer Yetzirah is within the science of numbers. Anyone can think in 32 paths, but in reality, the 32 paths of wisdom are equal to 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, equal to the star of 5 points, the pentalpha, meaning equal to the human being, which signifies that the paths are within the human being. Everything is within oneself. It is written in a very symbolic way. That is why it refers to 32 paths. Tarot and Kabbalah by Samael and Weor. 1. Jehovah Sabaoth Elohim, King of the universe, omnipotent, the merciful and gracious God, supreme and extolled, dweller in the height whose habitation is eternity, who is sublime and most holy, engraved his name and ordained, formed, and created the universe in 32 mysterious paths, stages, of wisdom, science, by 3 Sephirim, namely, numbers, letters, and sounds, which are in him one and the same. 2. 10 Sephiroth, 10 properties from the Ineffable One, and 22 letters are the foundation, Yesod of all things. Of these 22 letters, 3 are called mothers, 7 double, and 12 simple. Sefer Yetzirah. We were analyzing the paths as they have been cited by some institutions, orders, esoteric or pseudo-esoteric and pseudo-occultist type societies. We continue now, then, in our analyses. The Hebrew Kabbalah say that there are 32 paths. You see, how interesting. There are those who think that there are 7 paths, those who conceptualize that there are 4 paths, those who affirm that there are 12 paths, but the Hebrew Kabbalists emphasize the idea of 32 paths. This is worth comprehending, analyzing, studying. Unquestionably, there is a zodiacal belt formed by the 12 constellations of the zodiac. There are also the 7 planets, as they are defined in the Apocalypse of St. John, plus the 4 elements of nature. The 12 plus the 7 adds up to 19, plus the 4 adds up to 23. This is close to the 22 tarot cards, the 22 major arcana. But if we consider the 4 elements, we would not count one of them because we live in it. The earth is the ground, the earth element, so we would have 3 elements left. Then in that way we would have the 12 constellations of the zodiac plus the 7 planets. That's 19, plus the 3 elements, we would have 22. This is because we are perched, we are standing on the earth element. It should be noted that 3 plus 7 plus 12 summarizes all 22 letters and arcana of the tarot. 3 plus 7 plus 12 is equal to 22. The 3 mother letters. Aleph, air.
Water.
Shin, fire. 7 double letters, / 7 planets.
Bet Beth. Gimel Gimel. Daleth. Kaf. Peh. Resh. Taftaf.
12 simple letters / 12 zodiacal signs.
Ehe. Vivav.
Zayin.
Chet. Taith. Yodayad. Lelamed.
Nun.
Samek. Ayin. Saudi. Kuf.
Many Kabbalists, authorities on the matter, think that there are not 32 paths, but 22. They do not want to count the 10 Sephiroth as paths. That is their mistake, because the 10 Sephiroth are also paths. So we have that the 22 arcana plus the 10 would be 32, the 32 paths of the Kabbalah. To talk like that about it, constantly without rhyme or reason, without any explanation in some way, let's say schematically, would leave us rather confused. That's why it's necessary to explain. If we make a complete sum of the 32 paths, we will have 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. Thus, the pentalpha, 5 alphas, the human being, the microcosm human, there is the only path. But then, Why is there talk of 32 paths?
This has to be analyzed.
Certainly, within the esoteric path, we must unfold wonderfully through successive initiations and processes in the zodiacal womb. That is obvious. Unquestionably, we have to develop the 7 degrees of power of fire. Open the great book of wisdom. That book is sealed with 7 seals of fire and brimstone. Opening the 7 seals is vital if we want to reach the intimate self-realization of the being. It is obvious that each one of those 7 seals is related to each one of the 7 planets of the solar system. This is how we necessarily have to follow the 7 planetary paths. Deep down, they are but one. If we are seeing, if we are analyzing, if we are discerning, we can begin to understand that the path is one. That we develop within a zodiacal womb? That's obvious. What do we find to go through the process of opening the 7 seals of the Apocalypse of St. John in ourselves? It is indubitable. Who is worthy to open the book, says the seer of Patmos, and to loosen the seals on it? No one can deny that we have to work with the elements of nature, earth, where we come from, and then the 3 elements of air, fire, and water. It is also true and completely true that the 10 Sephiroth of the Hebrew Kabbalah constitute 10 paths that are basically only one, because the initiate must develop fully first in Maketh, in the physical world, then we'll have to work with Yesod, which is the philosopher's stone, transmuting the creative energy. One will have to fully develop in Hod, in the astral world. One will have to eliminate all the inhuman elements of the mind, in the world of Netzach. One will have to end all the causes of one's errors in the world of Tifereth, of the causal world. One will become aware of all one's previous existences and all one's good and bad deeds. In the world of Geburah, in the world of intuition, one will have to eliminate all the elements of black magic. The one who wants to become fully active and self-conscious in the world of Chesed, in the world of being, of the intimate, must be eliminating all psychological errors, Christifying one's bodies, radically transforming them. One will go from Sephiroth to Sephiroth, and finally, one day one will have the happiness of being able to Christify Bina in oneself, the forces of the 3rd Logos, and much later one will have to Christify oneself completely with Chakma, and in the evolution of the time, crystallize in it, the force of the 1st Logos, that of Kether, the Ancient of Days. Thus, the 10 Sephiroth are emanations of the ineffable Absolute, and we have to go through them. That is why they are called the 10 Paths. The 10 paths, the 12 zodiacal signs, the 7 worlds, and the 3 elements of nature, all of this constitutes nothing but a single path, which leads us to the intimate self-realization of being. Obviously, my dear brothers and sisters, the Kabbalah has an author. I want to refer emphatically to the angel Metatron. He taught his principles to the enlightened prophets. I once had to invoke Metatron in the superior worlds, and he came to me in his purple tunic. He looked like a 14 or 15-year-old teenager. He was carrying a flower in his hands, and pointing to the pistils, sistles, of that flower, he explained to me the mysteries of sex. The angel Metatron is great. He is a liberated creature, beyond good and evil. So, my dear brothers and sisters, we have a mighty work to do, and it is not possible to really go forward if we do not resolve to work chiseling the hard stone into the perfect cubic shape. Remember that our motto is Thelema, that is, willpower. Yoga. Many will join diverse organizations, there are lots of them, but what use would it be to fill our minds with theories of substantial content if we do not carry out the great work? There are those who care about Hatha Yoga, the common yoga of stretching. They manage to develop external muscles in exchange for internal organs, but nothing more. Excessive breathing exercises, what they call pranayama, beyond what is normal, is enormously detrimental to health. Note: these are the Bastrika or very vigorous pranayama exercises. If we observe the work of the baker, we see that there is a mixture of a certain amount of flour with a certain amount of water to make the bread. If the required elements are not measured, if the flour is more abundant than the water, obviously, the bread will not be good, and vice versa. If there is more water than flour, the bread will fail. It also happens that within the human organism there is a whole laboratory that you have to know how to regulate and direct. The different chemical elements have been properly provided. If there is more air than certain elements, obviously, disease will come, damage to the stomach, etc. If there is less air and more fixed element than air, there will also be imbalance. When one abuses pranayama, there is more air in the body than is required for metabolic, biochemical, catalytic, cellular, organic phenomena, and then the result is an imbalance. The lungs can become slightly overexcited, the stomach turn more quickly, so that digestion becomes faster than normal, and a series of biological disorders will occur, which in the long run will cause serious diseases. In Hatha Yoga, we see, for example, people who eat exaggeratedly slowly. All the diners at the table finish, and the Hatha yogi continues chewing very slowly. For what purpose? In order to prepare food well, to make the first digestion, as he says, in the mouth. What will be the result of such an error? Stomach diseases. Why? Because the Hatha yogi is teaching his stomach to be lazy. To be lazy, it loses its ability to digest. It gets used to the fact that the mouth does all the work. In these circumstances, the different dysfunctions or diseases or anomalies of the stomach are not allowed. It is necessary to accustom the stomach to work correctly, instead of teaching it to be lazy. You have to put hard food in it, even whole pieces of food, for it to work. But if you teach your stomach to be lazy, the day comes when it no longer wants to work. Then it is content that the mouth does everything, since it does not provide the services it should provide. That is why I say that Hatha Yoga, with its lousy customs, leads to error. Now, the development of the external organs that are carried out with Hatha Yoga harms the internal organs. Jnana Yoga, intellectual yoga, meditation and study of scripture allows us, through meditation, to escape from the physical body, or to go beyond the affections and the mind and come to experience the being, but it does not teach us the transmutation of hydrogens. It does not teach us how to build the vehicles for the being. It does not speak to us about the 32 paths of intelligence. It does not explain to us what the cubic stone of yes it is, so then that teaching is not complete. Raja Yoga, Ashtanga, or Kundalini Yoga, for example, allows us to develop the chakras, makes us strong in concentration. The Raja Yogi or Raja Yogini think that it is possible to awaken the Kundalini with pranayama. Such a concept is completely false. What happens is that sometimes a spark jumps from the bonfire of the coccyx, from the Muladhara, goes up through the Sushumna channel, produces a certain spark of illumination, and then the yogi believes that the serpent has fully awakened, but this concept is false. The serpent cannot be developed, nor can it develop, except exclusively through the Tantra initiation and nothing else. Only with the Tantras can it develop. So, my dear brothers and sisters, as we analyze the various types of yoga, we draw conclusions. Bhakti Yoga, devotional religion, is very good, and no one can deny that Bhakti Yoga does not develop the emotional center. It makes us mystical. It allows us certain ecstasies through adoration and devotion, but with Bhakti Yoga one cannot go beyond that. It will never teach us practical systems to be able to create the superior existential bodies of the being and achieve intimate self-realization. Thus, as we analyze, we see that we have no choice but to go through the 32 paths of intelligence, that is, to develop harmoniously within the zodiac, to open the 7 seals of the book that the Apocalypse of St. John speaks of, to work with the elements of nature and straighten our steps along the 10 paths, the 10 Sephiroth. How to understand the Bible. We are not talking about something whimsical, no. Keep in mind that the Hebrew Kabbalah was the patrimony of the great initiated rabbis of Israel. We must not forget that Jesus of Nazareth practiced it intensively, nor must we forget that the Kabbalah is the key to interpreting the sacred scriptures. There are many pseudo-Christian religions in the world, based on the Bible, like the Evangelists, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Protestants, etc., but they all have a very big mistake, and that is wanting to interpret the Bible with the Bible itself. One talks with a Protestant or Adventist on biblical matters. We see how all of them relate a verse from one chapter to another verse from another, with another and another and another with another. In total, they have formed a capricious, incestuous system to explain the Bible. They interpret it how they think it should be. It is clear that they are on the path of error, because the Hebraic Bible has come precisely from Israel, and there are 3 holy books of Israel. The Hebraic Bible, the Torah, the Tanakh, the Talmud, which is the national Jewish soul, the soul of teaching, the soul of the Bible, the Zohar, the Hebrew Kabbalah, which is the spirit of the sacred scriptures. In the Hebrew Kabbalah are the keys to interpret both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Thus, the Bible can only be understood by appealing to the Kabbalah, because the Bible is not explained with the Bible, but with the Kabbalah. The narratives of the law are the garment of the law. Woe unto him who takes this garment for the law itself. It is in this sense that David spake, saying, Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. Psalm 6:18. David wished to speak of that which is hidden beneath the garment of the law. There are fools who, seeing a man covered with a beautiful garment, look no further than that, and yet that which gives a worth to the garment is his body, and what is even more precious than that, his soul. The law, too, has its body. There are precepts which one might call the body of the law. The ordinary narratives which are intermingled are the garments with which the body is covered. Simpletons have regard only to the garments or narratives of the law. The better instructed pay no regard to the garment, but to that which it encloses.
Simeon ben Yohai, Zohar.
The three holy books of Israel, the Tanakh, the Talmud, the Kabbalah, the Zohar, have not been written uselessly. They have a definite purpose. It is not possible to explain the Bible with the Bible because the entire Bible is in code. We must appeal, whether we like it or not, to the spirit of the doctrine that is Kabbalah. But since Protestants do not know Kabbalah, nor do Adventists, neither the Anglicans, nor the Jehovah's Witnesses, nor the Mormons, etc., so they have appealed to the same Bible. They want to interpret, relate chapter to chapter, to give capricious and absurd explanations. That is the error. In no way could the sacred scriptures be understood without their keys that are in the Kabbalah. The 10 Sephiroth on the body. Thus, my dear brothers and sisters, it is necessary to work with the cubic stone of Yesod. Do not forget that the 10 Sephiroth are found in the macrocosm and in the microcosmic human, in the macrocosm or on our planet Earth. To specify something better, there are 10 chakras in which are the 10 Sephiroth. There are also 10 chakras in our organism for the 10 Sephiroth. Thus, we have that Kether is on the pineal gland. Thus, we have Chakma on the right side of our head and Bina on the left. The three constitute the crown of Atziluth. We will then continue with Chesed and Gebura, dividing into the right and left arms. We all feel Tiferet in the center of the chest, on one side of the heart, exactly in the center. It is the quintessential soul and Christ center. As for Netzach and Hod, they are divided into the right and left legs, in an orderly fashion. We had left aside, after Tiferet, we had left the arms, before we entered the lower part of the organism. Undoubtedly, brothers and sisters, the arms are very important. Keep in mind that with them we move our hands, we raise them to the Creator, etc., so it is well worth understanding them. Chesed, for example, with the right arm. Gebura is severity, the law, with the left. Tiferet, as I already said, is in the center. Then we continue with the Netzach and Hod, the legs. Yesod is the sexual organs and Maketh is the feet. Those 10 Sephiroth are expressed in those 10 parts of the organism. There they develop and develop. Also on planet Earth, those 10 Sephiroth have their chakras within the interior of the planetary organism. That is obvious. Thus, my dear brothers and sisters, these 10 Sephiroth are the 10 paths that basically form a single great path, the one that will lead us all to final liberation. The 7 Seals. When speaking of the 7 seals of the Apocalypse of St. John, we must know how to understand it. Those 7 seals, brothers and sisters, are on the spine. Unquestionably, brothers and sisters, we must begin by opening the first seal in a symbolic way, which is the coccygeal bone, where the Church of Ephesus is located, in the Muladhara chakra. It is said that we must open the second seal in the prostate, that is the Swadhisthana chakra, the Church of Smyrna. It is said that we have to open the third seal in the solar plexus, the Church of Pergamos, the famous Manipura chakra. It is said that the fourth seal must be opanoed at the level of the heart, the Anahata chakra, the Church of Thyatira. The fifth seal naturally corresponds to the creative larynx, to the center of clairaudience, the Church of Sardis, the Hindustani Vishuddha chakra. The sixth seal is related to the frontal chakra and the Church of Philadelphia, the Ajna chakra, and the seventh seal is in the upper part, in the pineal, the Sahasrara chakra, Church of Laodicea, the extraordinary lotus with 1,000 petals. The sacred fire has to open those 7 churches of the Apocalypse, activate those 7 chakras, but all this that I am saying is only the inferior work. In the higher work, things are different. In the superior work, the physical body must be completely Christified, and the etheric body, must be crystallized in the second seal. The astral body must be turned into gold when the third seal is opened. The mental body must be turned into gold when the fourth seal is opened. The causal body must be completely crystallized when the fifth seal is torn. The Buddhic must be crystallized when the sixth seal is broken, and finally, with the seventh seal, the divine spirit remains, the Hindustani Atman, the innermost, completely resplendent and crystallized. After this comes the resurrection of the adept, the king. It is, in other words, the Sun King rises from his crystal tomb. Hiram Abiff, in occult Freemasonry, comes here to the world to express himself through our senses, to speak with the creative larynx, to work for suffering humanity. I speak in summary because really the work with these 7 seals is formidable, extraordinary. The key of the great work. So, brothers and sisters of the 32 ways, it is not something impossible, nor is it truly about 32 paths apart from us, no. All the 32 paths form a single path, unfold ourselves in the zodiacal womb, open the 7 seals of the Apocalypse of St. John, walk through the 10 Sephiroth, that is, crystallize the 10 Sephiroth within us, go through the 10 Sephiroth within ourselves, achieve the full development of all our intimate possibilities, concrete in ourselves and within ourselves.
Here and now.
All this within ourselves. We are the microcosm of the macrocosm. Within us are the 32 ways and not outside of us. So, brothers and sisters, you have to work. Obviously, it is not possible to get to work on the great work without a key. The great key of the great work is all in the tantras, but if we reject the tantras, it will not be possible to do the great work. If we despise the stone, the cubic stone of Yesod, then it would not be possible to do the job. That stone is nothing else but the mercury of the secret philosophy, and that mercury is nothing but the metallic soul of the same sperm or of the same sexual chaos. It is with that metallic soul of the sperm that we are going to carry out the great work. It is extraordinary to see the rise of Mercury along the channels of Ida and Pingla. It is wonderful to see how the solar atoms of Mercury make contact so that fire, sulfur, springs up, because fire is represented in alchemy by sulfur fertilizing Mercury. It does marvels and prodigies, and it is within that Mercury that gold is formed, that is, the intimate Christ. It is within that Mercury, within the metallic soul of the sperm, where the golden child of alchemy, the Sun King, the Elohim, really comes to be formed, completely transformed. Now, such a transformation would not be possible without the radical elimination of the inhuman elements that we carry within. All the work within the zodiacal matrix, all the work with the 7 worlds, all the work along the 10 paths, consists very especially in the elimination of all the undesirable elements that we carry within us. Certainly, each one of us is full of psychological defects. There are so many that listing them would be very difficult because we not only need to eliminate the errors that we have in our present existence, but also we must eliminate all the errors of our past existences, crimes that we believe no longer exist in us. Yet, they still exist, we carry them in our minds, although we are not aware of it. When one wants to go through the 32 paths of intelligence, one necessarily has to eliminate everything that is undesirable so that the cosmos human remains in us, that is, the cosmic human and nothing else. The case of Andrew comes to mind at this moment. He was crucified on a cross in the shape of an X. It is said that he was wise in a great way. On some occasion in Nicaea, Andrew conjured 7 demons that appeared to people and killed travelers. They say that they took the figure of dogs and fled in terror. He raised the dead and was endowed with great powers. He was at the service of John, before entering as a disciple of the great Kabir, and accompanied the divine master in the Sea of Galilee when he caught the miraculous fish. However, he was sentenced to death. The martyrdom of Andrew is interesting, crucified on that type of cross, of that type, in the shape of an X. We should also remember the ritual word, the ritual phrase pronounced by those masters who found the body of Hiram Abiff, "May the flesh abandon the bones," a liturgical phrase that every worker of the great work pronounces when he is eliminating the undesirable elements. May the flesh abandon the bones. Unquestionably, the crucifixion of Andrew has that meaning. Flesh is understood here as the elimination of undesirable elements, the elimination of all those psychological aggregates that constitute precisely the I, the ego, myself, the myself. In Scotland there was precisely a fraternity that was called Andrew Thistle, because the thistle is precisely the St. Andrew plant. You know that the thistles are full of thorns. If we continue forward, we see that at the beginning the St. Andrew's cross represents enlightenment, represents light, represents revelation, but see how that revelation is related, that enlightenment, with the cross of St. Andrew, is precisely that the cross of St. Andrew represents everything that radiates, everything that makes light, every star, everything that enlightens. Why? Because once the ego has been disintegrated, all the inhuman elements, the undesirable elements reduced to ashes, it is obvious that the illumination remains in us, the manifested light remains. Much has been said about the title of the Hermetic nobility. Whoever comes to have the title of the Hermetic nobility can sign with the famous X, in the center of which there will also be a red rose. Do you know what is the cross of Andrew with the red rose in the center? It is nothing less than the title of the Hermetic nobility, of those who have carried out the great work. It is the authentic and legitimate symbol of the rosy cross. When I speak of the Rosicrucians, it is good that you understand that I am not referring to any Rosicrucian school of those that exist in the physical world. I am not talking about the Rosicrucians of Amorque or any Rosicrucian school, nor am I referring to the Golden Cross of Dr. Israel Rojas, or similar schools bearing that title. When I speak of the Rosicrucians, I am referring to the title of Hermetic nobility, which is only held by those who have accomplished the great work, because the superior the Rosicrucian order is spread throughout the world. It is not an institution, it is not a school like the one we know in the physical world. No, it is something different. It is rather a sum of self-realized masters, of resurrected masters, who live in all latitudes. Resurrected masters. Some of them are no more than simple farmers, others may be masons, others may hold high positions in banks, in businesses, others will act as high politicians or people of science, etc., but they are resurrected masters who know how to transmute lead into gold. If some put themselves in mediocre situations, they do so intentionally because each one of these masters has a job to do in the world, because not all are instructors, some are, others are not, but all do work in their different departments, each in their own ministry, according to the plans of the logos of the solar system. Any master who bears the title of Hermetic nobility, represented by the cross of Andrew, with a red rose in the center, can recreate their body, that is, recreate it and keep it for millions of years, but I repeat, many of them go unnoticed, and even lead an apparently mediocre life. The only thing that can attract the attention of their neighbors is that they lead a righteous, blameless life. The authentic Rosicrucian order is very sacred, and only resurrected masters can belong to it. No one else. If some of those masters have been placed in a mediocre environment, I did not mean ordinary, because someone could be a self-realized master and could work as a bricklayer. Another could be a self-realized master with pick and shovel. Another could be a self-realized master and be a famous doctor in the city. So each one is placed in the necessary position to work according to the plan of the logos. But I would not say common and current, because it would include vices, drinking, smoking, chattering, so that it cannot be common and current. What happens is that they choose the position to carry out this or that job, according to the logos plan. One can use a pick and shovel and be transmuting lead into gold, and one can make gold, diamonds, rubies, and emeralds, but one will never make them for oneself. Selfishly, one will only do that when necessary, for the good of the great work of the Father. One will have all the awakened powers of God, and no one will know. One will go unnoticed, and no one will know. Jesus of Nazareth goes through the streets unnoticed, still lives, and nobody knows him. When he arrives in a country, he presents himself as any other citizen, but we well know the gigantic work that this man has done. For them, the great resurrected masters, social positions are used according to the plan of the logos. One day, for example, Count Saint-Germain appeared, surrounded by a lot of apparatus and a very rich, powerful, and a great lord. Of course, he needed to do great political work in France at that time, and he became a friend of Louis XV, and he came to him to take in great appreciation. Much later, in time, around the time of Louis XVI, Saint-Germain returned to France. He no longer came to live in a great palace as before, but in a humble room of poverty. Those who saw him, the influential in France, assumed that he was in a bad situation. It is clear that they offered him a job. Saint Germain replied saying that he was very grateful for the job, but frankly he did not need it. Firstly, because he was a prince, and secondly, because he had a great fortune, which he thanked them for. That man placed himself in the situation that was necessary, in the situation of the plans of the moment, the plans of the logos. Thus, it is good to know that this great brotherhood, this superior order of humanity formed by the authentic Rosicrucian Gnostics, is far from resembling something called ordinary life. It can be placed in different positions, but an adept will never fall in vices or anything like that. So, if you, my dear brothers and sisters, resolve to work with the cubic stone of Yesod, if you resolve to tread the 32 paths of the Hebrew Kabbalah, you will be able to achieve liberation. You will one day be able to enter the authentic Rosicrucian order. The Tanakh is the body of the doctrine, the Talmud is the soul of the doctrine, the Zohar, the Kabbalah, is the spirit of the doctrine. If you want to understand the Trinity, you have to study the Hebrew Kabbalah. The Zohar includes all the Hebrew Kabbalah. It is the Hebrew Kabbalah. In the Hebrew Kabbalah are the keys to interpret the sacred scriptures. This means that the Bible cannot be interpreted with the Bible itself, as the dead sects try. To interpret the Bible, you have to appeal to the Kabbalah. That's what the Kabbalah is for. There are the keys with which you can understand all the verses of the Old and New Testaments. The times have passed when the great enlightened rabbis prophesied the fall of Jerusalem. Now we are in the darkest time in the history of humanity. Today the Jews have lost the esoteric knowledge. That is the explanation for which they don't comprehend the Talmud, and much less the Zohar. They don't even care about the Bible anymore. All that already belongs to the past, the powerful esoteric civilization that they had collapsed. I don't want to say that there are not some initiated rabbis. Always there are, and there always will be, but they are few and most are different. In any case, the Talmud is nothing more than the Jewish national soul. Beyond that national soul is the spirit of the doctrine, which is the Kabbalah. With the keys of the Kabbalah, you can understand the sacred scriptures. Without the Kabbalah, the Bible is a dead letter. Inferential piece. An instructor's elaboration on the lecture. Quotes from scriptures of Kabbalah with commentary by a Gnostic instructor, between parentheses, as an elaboration on the lecture by Samael and Weor. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that Elohim created Adam, in the likeness of Elohim made he him, Adam. Male and female created he them, Adam, and blessed them, and called their name Adam. In the day, Be'ivlem Hibaram, in the day when they were created by Abraham, our innermost. Genesis 5 verses 1 and 2. Rabbi Simeon said, in these words are involved and contained great occult truths, even the greatest and most profound divine mysteries respecting the origin and creation of Adam, and so beyond human comprehension that they must remain subjects of faith and not of knowledge. Of the creation of the world, it is written, these are the generations of the heavens and of the earth Be'hibaram, when they were created. In the day Be'ilem, that Hava Elohim made the earth and the heavens. Genesis 2 verse 4. The word Be'hibaram, when they were created, is an anagram of Be'abraham, which means by Abraham. The creation was brought about by the transposing of the letters of the concealing word, bara, into Abar, the sacred principle, Chesed, our innermost, on which the world was founded and continues to subsist. Yet in Genesis chapter 5 at the creation of Adam, scripture states, Elohim blessed them and called their name Adam, Be'ivlem Hibaram, in the day when they were created by Abraham, our innermost. Genesis 5 verse 2. From the terms, male and female created he them, we gather that every figure that does not bear the form of the male or female is not in the image and likeness of Adam Kadmon, the primal ideal Adam of which we have formerly spoken. Observe that in any place of Scripture where the male and female are not found, sexually and alchemically, united together, in Dath Be'abraham meaning, by Abraham, our innermost, the Holy One, Hava Elohim, Bina, is said not to dwell or be present with his blessing, and the name Adam is only used, Be'abraham meaning, by Abraham, our innermost, and Hava Elohim, Bina, when such is the case. Rabbi Jehuda said, since the destruction of the temple, because the orgasm of the beasts, Chayath, Israel no longer enjoys the blessings that descend from on high daily on the earth. Yeah, one may say that blessings have become lost unto Israel, as it is written. The righteous, Sadiq, perished, and no male fire layeth it to heart, since Enosh or Chesed, meaning, since Adam, Abraham, Chesed, our innermost, are taken away, none considering that the righteous, Sadiq, is taken away from the evil to come. Isaiah 57 verse 1. The word perished, Abed, here denotes the blessings from on high, but which are now of no beneficial effect in the renovation of human nature, for as stated. But thou shalt say unto them, This is a nation that obeyed not the voice of Yahweh their Elohim, nor received correction. Truth is perished, and is cut off from their mouth. Jeremiah 7 verse 28. The truth that brings with it light frees the soul from its downward propensities and informs us whence all blessings descend and come to Adam, namely, from the Holy One of whom it is written, And blessed them, and called their name Adam. Genesis 5 verse 2. It was through Seth that have come forth all the generations of the righteous ones, or Enoshir, in the world. Zohar. Rabbi Yissa said, Everyone on leaving the world into the presence of Adam so that they may learn that not his, but their own sins and wrongdoing have caused their death. Amongst myriads of those that have lived and died, only 3 have there been whose decease was not owing to sin, but was brought about by the malicious designs of the serpent, namely, Amram, Levi and Benjamin, and also Jesse, who committed no sin worthy of death. Observe that all the antediluvians, or Atlanteans, sinned openly and unblushingly. Rabbi Simeon was once walking in the environs of Tiberias Lake, and on beholding people, Ishim, committing pollution, he exclaimed, How dare these wretches, egos of mine, sin against their Lord so openly and shamefully? Then Jesus went from the spinal medulla of him as a magnetic force that impelled them, his egos, to cast themselves into the lake and be drowned. As it is written, A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them. Jesus gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Mark 5 verses 10 to 13. Come and behold that every species of sin and wrongdoing done openly causes the Shekinah from the earth to take its departure from the world of the delinquent and guilty one and cease its abiding with him. This was the case with the dwellers of Atlantis before the deluge, and thereby they cut themselves adrift from the Holy One. Hence it is written, Take away the dross from the silver, then shall it be formed into a vessel. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne shall be established in righteousness. Proverb 25, 4-5. Rabbi Eliezer said, It is written, And Yahweh said, My spirit, Chesed or Ruach Elohim, shall not always strive with Adam, for that the world, Olam without Vav, is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Genesis 6 verse 3. When the Holy One created the world, Olam, he made it after the pattern of the world, Olam, on high, and as long as its inhabitants lived pure and upright lives and caused the divine spirit or life, Chayim, into that part of the world, the Vav of Olam, Tifereth, in which Jacob dwelt afterwards into the land of Israel during the reign of David, whence heavenly blessings and influences gradually extended over the whole world, Olam, Tifereth the Vav, and therefore it is written, Give ye thanks unto Yahweh, for he is good, for his loving kindness, Chesidu, Abraham, endures forever. Leolam give thanks unto Elohi Elohim, for his loving kindness, Chesidu, Abraham, endures forever, Leolam. Psalm 136 verses 1 and 2. The words Chesidu Leolam, also, loving kindness for the world of Maketh, have reference to that letter Daleth of Chesed as part of the spheres, Yesod below and Dath, on high, being the Vav of Olam, Tifereth, the Sishimna channel, the place where King David resides, and therefore, Chesidu, is written with the letter Vav at the end, signifying that where the divine influence of Chesed, Abraham, descends from that celestial region of death. Then blessings are poured down on Yesod, then, through the letter Vav or spinal medulla, on the world, Olam, Tifereth the Vav below, Yesod, which in Makkath is Sishimna channel, the kingdom of David. But as mankind sinned, by means of the orgasm of the beast's Chayath, the life divine, Chayim, has been taken from the world, Olam, Tifereth, the Vav, which is the Sishimna channel in our physicality, and only those who strive to attain unto scientific alchemical chastity now enjoy its blessings, whilst the unjust, those who enjoy the orgasm of the beast's Chayath or who are unable to appropriate it, ADH, the Skakina, for their wicked and magical purposes. The meaning of the words for that he also is flesh, Bishagam, is that this divine life, Chayim, might not become abused by the Kundabuffer, serpent, that was more subtle than all beasts, Chayath, of the field which Ayadhava Elohim had made, and others for their evil purposes, and so kept unsullied and undefiled by contact with the wicked and the impure, orgasm of the beasts, Chayath. By the word flesh, Bishagam, said Rabbi Simeon, is meant the angel of death, whilst the words, the days of Adam shall be 120 years, mean to the thread or silver cord, as it is termed, shall be broken that binds body and soul together. It is written, there were Nephilim, fallen ones, in the earth in those days. Genesis 6 verse 4. Rabbi Joseph said, the Nephilim here mentioned were the angels Azza and Azael, whom the Holy One hurled from the heavens, Adh Hashemayim, onto the earth, and became tohu vibohu, formless and void. If the question he asked, how could they exist on earth, as tohu vibohu, formless and void, in a state so different to that they enjoyed in the heavens, Adh Hashemayim? Rabbi Haya said, they, Azza and Azael, were of that class of angels of whom Scripture says, and fowl that fly above and around the Vav or spinal medulla, Sishimna channel of the earth, our physicality, Genesis 1 verse 20, and who manifest themselves to mankind in human form. When descending upon earth, as tohu vibohu, formless and void, they are able to assume various shapes that become materialized and thus visible to mortal eyes. These rebel angels Azza and Azael are called in Sanskrit Idaoi and Pinglapuma, hurled upon the earth as tohu vibohu, formless and void, and became embodied in material, fornicator humanoid, bodies of which they could not after rid themselves. Charmed and overcome with the beauty of Lilith and Nehema, the daughters of the fallen Adam, they continue living unto this day, teaching people and initiating them into magical art and the science of the Kundabuffer organ. They, the fallen, the Nephilim Azza and Azael, begot children in Lemuria and Atlantis, who were termed Anakim, giants, Jibrim, mighty ones. It was through them that the earth, our physicality, reverted back to its previous state of tohu vibohu, occult words in which is contained the epitome of their history and final disappearance from off the face of the earth, until the spirit of life, the Chayim from God, entered into them, and they resurrected from the dead as the two witnesses, or the two angels Azza and Azael, from off the bowels, Klippeth, Gehenna, hell, of the earth, which occurred when the light divine of Adh, the Skakina, appeared in the Vav of the earth, Vath Haaretz, which is the light of the Vav of the world, Olam, Tifereth, the Vav, which is the Sishimna channel in our physicality. Such were the fallen angels, the Nephilim Azza and Azael, who formerly were called sons of Elohim, because the Beni Ha-Elohim are two ganglionic cords that are the sons of Ma, the sea goddess Hayiliam. Because the Nephilim Azza and Azael are rooted in the ovaries or testicles, and have their head Mi, the sea god, El-Hayim, the sea of marrow, the brain. Zohar. Samael Aun Weor said, the sexual transmutation of the ens seminis into creative energy is made possible when we carefully avoid the abominable spasm, the filthy orgasm of the fornicators. The bipolarization of this type of cosmic energy in the human organism was analyzed since ancient times in the initiatic colleges of Egypt, Mexico, Peru, Greece, Chaldea, Rome, Phoenicia, etc. The ascension of the seminal energy to the brain is performed thanks to a certain pair of nervous cords that, in the form of an 8, splendidly unfold to the right and to the left of the dorsal spine. We now have arrived at the caduceus of Mercury with its wings of the spirit that are always opened. This mentioned pair of nervous cords can never be found with the bisturi scalpel because they are of a semi-ethereal, semi-physical nature. These two nervous cords are the two witnesses of the apocalypse, the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceeded out of their mouth and devoured their enemies. In the sacred land of the Vedas, these two nervous cords are known with the Sanskrit names Ida and Pingla. The first one is related with the left nasal cavity and the second one with the right. It is obvious that the first one of these two nadis or canals is of a lunar type. It is clear that the second one is of a solar type. Many Gnostic students may be a little surprised to find that although Ida is of a cold and lunar nature, Ida has its roots in the right testicle. Many disciples of our Gnostic movement might receive the news as unexpected and unusual that although Pingla is of a strictly solar nature, Pingla really emerges from the left testicle. Nevertheless, we should not be surprised, because everything in nature is based on the law of polarities. The right testicle finds its exact antipode in the left nasal cavity, as has already been demonstrated. The left testicle finds its perfect antipode in the right nasal cavity, and obviously this is the way it must be. Esoteric physiology teaches us that in the feminine sex the two witnesses emerge from the ovaries. It is unquestionable that within women the order of these two olive trees of the temple is harmoniously reversed. Old traditions which surge forth from within the profound night of all ages state that when the solar and lunar atoms of the seminal system make contact in the triveni close to the coccyx, then, as a simple electric induction, a third force awakens. I mean the marvelous fire of love awakens. It is written in old texts of ancient wisdom that the inferior orifice of the medullary canal is found hermetically closed in common and current people. The seminal vapors open this canal in order for the sacred fire of sexuality to enter within it. The Three Mountains by Samael and Weor. And their dead bodies of Azza and Azael shall lie, as tohu vibohu, formless and void, in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Mitzrayim, Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Revelation 11 verse 8. And Ayat Hava Elohim formed Adh Ha'adam of the dust of the manna of Ha'adamah, Urania Venus, Adh, the Skakina, the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the souls of life, or Neshamoth Chayim, and Ha'adam became a Nefesh Chaya, living soul. Genesis 2 verse 7. And after 3 days and in half the spirit of life, or the souls of life, the Neshamoth Chayim, from God entered into them, and they, Azza and Azael, stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. Revelation 11, 8, 11-13. And seeth 2 angels, Azza and Azael, in white sitting, the one at the head, and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain, and with the resurrection of our inner Jesus, Ha'adam became a Nefesh Chaya, living soul. John 20 verse 12. The cephalic rachis liquid and the semen are the poles of the sexual energy. The angels have the 2 poles, Azza and Azael, upwards, towards his head, heaven. The kundalini, Adh, the skakina, of the angel goes upwards to the heavens, Adh Hashemayim. Yet the demon's kundabuffer organ goes downwards to Klippeth, Gehenna, hell, the abyss, Toam. So, the Vav of Olam, Tifereth, the Sishimna channel, of the common and current human beings and the demons, are Tohu Vibohu, formless and void, and the infraconsciousness, subconsciousness and unconsciousness. Darkness is upon their face, which reflects the darkness of their abyss, Toam. They, the common and current human beings and the demons, have one pole upward, vibohu, and the other downward, tohu. They form the brain with one pole, vibohu, and they fornicate, reach the orgasm of the beasts, chayath, with tohu the other pole.
Samael ain Weor.
And their kundabuffer organ, which is the tempting serpent of Eden, is the more cunning than any beast, chayath, of the field, shada, which Hava Elohim had made. Genesis 3 verse 1.